Hey guys, if you're anything like me, you've done everything there is to do in Armored Core 6. You've beaten the game, you've beaten New Game Plus, New Game Plus Plus, you've gotten every battle log and S ranked almost every mission, and you just want to get a little bit more content out of the game. Or maybe you want to build a certain way, but you can't because the legs won't hold all the weight of your parts. I'm going to walk you through how to do all of that. And this is a beginner's guide into modding Armored Core 6. And when I say modding, I know that sounds scary, but trust me, this is really easy. This is as easy as changing some settings on your phone. The gameplay you're seeing right now is me showing off a modded build that I have. I'm running around shooting 40 rockets at a time. These miniguns that I have are shooting like an AC-10 Warthog, and I'm zipping around in hover mode. It's really, really fun to do if you just want to experience the game in a new way, exactly the way that you want to play it. It's like taking the vanilla game's customization options and taking that to the next level. You can customize anything of any part and any weapon and any, piece of armor that you want. Just quick heads up, this is for offline only. If you go online with this, you can get banned, so keep this offline, and there are tutorials out there to show you how to make it so that your game doesn't go online, but make sure you don't go online. But anyway, let's get into the tutorial. And I also S-ranked with, no effort. So modding Armored Core 6 is not that bad. It can seem daunting at first and it's going to look complicated, but it really isn't that bad. So this is going to be a quick overview on how to set up your environment to do so. I have my Steam apps, my Steam library opened here, and I'm just going to go into Armored Core 6 in the game folder, and we're just going to show you what we're going to modify here. So the only file we're really going to be touching is this regulation.bin. This contains all the edits we're going to do. It has all the settings for your weapons, for your armor, and all those types of things. And what we're going to do is we're just going to copy this and make a backup of it. This is going to be our vanilla file that we're not going to touch. If we ever wanted to go back, we could just have this as a backup, right? So I'm just going to call this back. So if you forget to do this, it's not that big of a deal. You just go into Steam and then verify the integrity of your game files and it'll restore it. So it's not a biggie. One thing to note is this game is protected by Easy Anti-Cheat. If you do this online, if you modify your game in any way and go online, you will get banned. So I recommend that you either set your game to block on the firewall, or you can look up a tutorial on how to prevent your game from going online when you mod it. Okay, so do not bring this online. I'm not responsible for you getting banned. Okay, so we created a backup of the regulation file, and how we edit it is, I wish it was as simple as going into a text editor, but it's not. You can't open it. So what we're going to use is we're going to use a program called Smithbox. And Smithbox, you can see here, it's a modding tool for Elden Ring. And we're just going to download this from GitHub. So when you go to the Smithbox GitHub page, you'll see releases on the right-hand side. Go ahead and click this, scroll down, and download Smithbox. So it's not that big of a file. It's 250 megabytes. There is another program out there called DS Studio, but DS Studio does not have an updated parameter for Armored Core 6, so you won't see all the settings. So long story short, use Smithbox for now. I already downloaded it, but I'll do it again from scratch. So you can extract Smithbox wherever you want. I'm just going to extract it to the desktop in a new folder. Like I said, you could put this anywhere. You don't have to put it on your desktop, but just for sake of this demonstration, I'll put it on the desktop. Once that's downloaded, close WinRAR. We can open this up. And you can see all these files. Scroll down to Smithbox. So here is Smithbox. When you first open it up, you're not going to see anything. That's normal. What we're going to do is we're going to go in the top left and we're going to click Project and then New Project. So we can name this project whatever we want. For now, I'm going to name it AC6 Modded. And we're going to select the project type. With Smithbox, you can edit all types of From Software games, but today we're going to do Armored Core 6, obviously. and project directory. So this is where you have a decision point. Either you can make a new folder and save your project in a brand new folder, and whenever you want to copy over the regulation.bin file into your game folder, you can do that manually. So this is if you wanted to play it safe and you wanted to keep everything in the game folder kind of pristine and you control when everything gets modded. But you can also just select the game folder and the regulation.bin file will automatically update whenever you click Control S in Smithbox. So that's what we're going to do today just for ease. You can see I already have my game folder selected here. This is, remember, where the regulation.bin file is. So Armored Core 6 Fires of Rubicon /game. This is where the regulation bin folder is, or file, sorry. Data directory is where the actual game is. So for our purposes, this is the same. But if you made this in a new folder on your desktop or documents or something like that, this is where that would be, and then where your game is going to be here. So this is the actual game. What we're going to check is row name import. What this does is it adds names to every row, so it makes it really easy to see what row is what, right? Because if you don't check this, sometimes it'll just be a string of numbers, and that doesn't really mean anything. But this will add a name, so you'll see the name of every weapon or every armor piece or whatnot, so it really makes it really nice to edit. For the editors, we're going to uncheck everything except for param editor. The param is every setting in the regulation.bin file. So that's all we need to touch that file. And then we can uncheck material data as well. So this is going to be a really small project. Go ahead and click create. And it will open the regulation.bin. If it says, do you want to wish to import row names, click OK. And this is the regulation.bin file essentially. So just as an example, just to show you, let's click equip param weapon. This is where all your weapons are. And you'll see every weapon here. So if you didn't click row import names, then this would be what it looks like a lot of the times. It'll just be numbers. But you can see we have all the names for all the weapons here. So let's go into Armored Core 6. Let's pick some weapons. And then we'll edit this file and see what happens. So here we have Armored Core 6 loaded up, and what I have is a very basic mech setup. So I have a Ransetsu, I have a missile launcher, and then a bunch of Melander stuff. I suggest that when you do this, you pick some weapons that you want to modify, but for sake of this tutorial, I'm going to show this. So let's go into test mode and see how this Ransetsu performs. All right, so here is the basic firing mode. You could see that it's pretty slow. It has a charge. It takes a second, and it does a burst. And then the reload is pretty long. So let's change those three things. Let's change the fire rate so that it shoots faster. Let's change the charge so that it charges faster. And let's change the reload time so the reload is faster. So let's close this and go back into Smithbox and make those changes and check out what it does in the game. Okay, so back in Smithbox. I already have the equip param weapon selected. This is where all your weapons are, so arms and shoulders and whatnot. And we're going to go up here and we're going to find the Ransetsu. So Ransetsu. So this is the one I had selected in the game, the right side. You could do left and right differently if you want, but for now we'll do the right side. So the first thing that we want to change is the reload time. So on this page here, this is everything that pertains to the weapon itself. So the weight, we can change here. Let's make it lighter just for sake of it. And if you scroll down, you'll find reload time. Here it is. Ammunition reload time. If you highlight, you can see what it says. The duration for a complete reload of the magazine in seconds. Right now it's set to 1.8. So you could do what I did is I scrolled down, but if you happen to know the name of it, you can go up to the top here and click reload. And it'll bring up all the reload related items, right? So the magazine reload speed during storage and the magazine reload time while it's out. So what I'll do here is from 1.8 seconds, we're going to change that to 0.5 seconds. And this is when you reload it and the weapon is like in your backpack or whatnot. We'll just do 0.1. It doesn't really matter in this case. But I made those two changes, and you can see that it turned green to show me that it changed something here. And that makes it really easy for you to see what you've modified on a weapon. If you go to this arrow here and you click modified, it'll only show the items that you've modified on this. So you see we modified the weight, we modified the reload time and the reload speed. So if you're tweaking values, this is really nice for you to just see the stuff that you care about, right? But let's start everything for now. And that's everything. So if we go into the game now and check the reload time, let's see that. Okay, so here we are back in the game. Let's go into AC Design and Assembly and take a look at the Ransetsu. So if we look at this now and you see the reload time, look at that. It says 5 seconds or 0.5 seconds. So that's going to be really quick. Let's go ahead and try this in the test run area. Fire a couple times and then reload. And we're reloaded. So you can see how easy that was. Let's go ahead and change this fire rate to this. Fire rate is crazy slow. Okay, so we're back in Smithbox. And one thing to note is the fire rate is not on this page. So this is something that's a little strange and it could take a while to get used to. But this is for kind of the stats of the actual weapon itself, right? So the weight of the gun, the sell price of the gun, that kind of thing. But the fire rate is a behavior of the gun. So to find that, we have to go to the behavior page. So equip param weapon is what we were on. So we'll go ahead and go to behavior param. And we're going to want to do the PC because this is the player character, and this is where we'll find the stuff that relates to our character. And what you can do is you can go down here and you can find Ransetsu again. Here it is, and you can see Ransetsu here. And there's one for normal fire, there's one for charged, and there's one for the assault rifle. We care about this one. So that's one way to find the behavior of a gun, but the faster way, the easier way that I think, is if you go back to param weapon in the Ransetsu, and you go on, you scroll up this list of parameters here, and you see behavior variation ID right here. This is the page that we were just on. So what you could do is you can right-click this and click Search in Behavior Param PC. This will bring you right to that page, so it's really easy to hop back and forth. So if we go here and we scroll down, what we're looking for is something called, boy, it's really hard to find these sometimes. So it's helpful to know the names. Here it is, reload time. So reload time, if you highlight this, is the interval between one shot and the next shot. Right now it says 0.7. So let's go crazy and change this to 0.05. We can change that and Control S for save. So while we're here, let's also change how long it takes to charge this weapon. So if we go back to equip param weapon, and I know this is counterintuitive, but this sounds like it would be a behavior, but it's not in behavior. It's in the weapon itself. So let's go to charge. You'll just get used to these things and where you can find them once you play around with this. And type in charge. And here we see duration for full charge. So the time it takes for the weapon's charge to go from 0 to max. So if we change this down to, let's say, 0.2 instead of 0.7, then that will be a substantial benefit. So let's go ahead and Control S to save, and let's check these changes in game. All right, back in the game, let's check out this weapon, and we can see a couple things that have changed here. So we have the reload time is very low. Charge time is also very fast. It actually still says 0.7, so we may have messed that up. But the rapid fire time is all the way up now. Now it says 20. I don't know what that value correlates to, essentially with the numbers that we put in, but that's what it is. So let's go ahead and test this out, see how it performs. Okay, and look at that. That is pretty nice. And the reload time is quick, so that's really cool too. And let's try the charge time. Okay, charge time is faster. I don't know what we put. I think we put 0.5 or something like that. So we could boost that up a little bit more, make it a little faster charge, but already it's pretty good. What you can also do though is you can see that the your ammo is still going down. We can also add unlimited ammo, which is going to be really nice. So let's go ahead and do that next. So 2 ways we can increase our magazine size. Well, one way to increase the magazine size is to go into, again, equip weapon param, the weapon we want, and then the ammunition magazine round. So number of rounds loaded into a magazine. So we can set this to be higher. So we do a 40 round mag if we want. But if you want it to be truly unlimited, you go up to the top here, go back to the behavior. So right click, behavior param PC. And then I think there is something here called ammunition consume. Yeah, here it is. So I typed in AMM and I found action cost, the number of ammunition consumed when the attack occurs. So if you change this to 0, now it won't take any rounds out of the magazine. This is true also for your post-game ranking. This does not count as you consuming a round. So another way to do this, where, you know, that S rank thing, because I know that's something that a lot of us work on in the end game, is try to get S rank. If you wanted to make that really easy, you could just go into the cost of each round and just change it to 0. So right here, if you type in cost at the top and then go to weapon ammunition cost, so the cost fired, cost per round fired at the end of each mission, the total number of rounds fired is used to calculate ammunition expenses. Right now, this is set to 100. If you set this to 0, it's not going to cost anything for you to fire your gun. So if you wanted to play this game more vanilla, but just get an S rank pretty easily, just change this to 0. And no matter how many rounds you fired, it's going to cost nothing to fire them. And now you can see that our weapon doesn't take any bullets. Bottom right hand side, you can see our bullet count in our magazine. It still says 40 no matter how many times we shoot. So that's how you can change it to unlimited ammo. So next, let's work on the missiles and make this really busted. So as you can see here, it takes a little while for me to lock on to the enemies here. And then when you click the hold button, or the holding to target multiple enemies, it also takes a second, right? So click and hold, and it takes that long. And I'm also firing just 10 rounds, or 10 rockets. And you can see how slow they fire and how slow they move and how weak they are. So let's change that to make these missiles really busted. All right, so I made a bunch of changes, and let me walk you through what I did. So I hid everything on the screen except for what was modified, so we can kind of focus in on what I changed instead of, you know, all the different weapons and stuff that we're not talking about. So first things first, let's go to equip param weapon, and I changed the missile launcher weapon. Again, this is the weapon that is equipped on my left back. I changed the weight to only be 500 kg. I changed the damage to be 500. Change the rounds to be 20, so that should be 20 rockets inside each shot. I changed the reload speed for that to 0.5, so after I shoot the 20, it should be really quick to reload. The lock distance I made 5,000, which is crazy. It's almost like some whole maps, right? Ammunition cost is 0, so it's not going to cost anything at the end of a mission. And the reload time is going to be 0. So these two right here are pretty similar. One is magazine reload time, and this is the percentage during storage. Again, this is just when it's not being used, I guess. I changed it to be 0.5, but honestly, it may not matter because our reload time is 0 anyway. Another thing I changed is I went to the behavior of the missile launcher here, and I changed a couple things here. So reload time is the interval between one shot and the next shot. I changed this from 6.4 to 0.1. I think this speeds up how fast you can shoot between salvos. I'm not sure, but I lower it down anyway. It's fine just to do experiment. It doesn't really break anything. You can always revert back to the default value if it doesn't work. Missile lock time, I changed this to 0.05 seconds. Missile lock count, we have 20 missiles, so let's lock on 20 times. And then the charge attack is when you hold the bumper button or your missile button and it locks onto multiple enemies. I made that very short as well. And then one new thing that I didn't show previously is this is the behavior for the rocket launcher. What I did now is I changed the behavior of the actual missiles. So the actual missiles have their own set of parameters. And you can see here in the behavior of the missile launcher, and you go to bullet, so reference ID bullet, and we go to this, go to missile launcher. This is the bullet's behavior. And what I changed here is I changed some settings for the actual missile itself. So I sped up the acceleration time, I sped up the velocity, I shortened how long it takes for it to start accelerating. I changed the homing strength. So the homing strength, if you highlight this, is the amount of tracking correction are made each second, affecting the speed the projectile faces the victim. So this affects how fast the missile turns. Before it was 180, I set it to 500. This is very similar, the maximum tracking angle. So this is how many degrees it can turn. I changed it from 5 to 30. And limit angle is when it stops tracking. So if the target is in a greater angle than this number, the missile will basically give up on tracking it. It used to be 110. I made it 270, so it can almost turn fully around to track somebody. Reload interval is between shots. I think we saw this previously, so I changed this down to 5. And then distance duration, I bumped it up a little bit from 2,500 to 3,000 just so I can reach a little bit further. And one more thing. So the missiles by itself don't just give you a lock-on range of 3,000, right? You have to be able to scan and target those enemies that far. And what that is the actual scan when you press the scan button, right? And it shows you enemies behind walls and such. I modified that, and that is also found in Equip Param Protector. So Equip Param Protector is all the armor pieces. So if I change this from modified, you can see all the armor pieces here: head, core, arms, legs. If I go here and I do modified and choose the head, I changed a couple things here. So the scan angle used to be 65. This is a really basic head, but it only scans 65 degrees in front of you. I changed it to be fully 360, so when I click the scan button, it scans all the way around. The distance is 3,000, so scans damn near the whole map. And then the duration is 60 seconds. So every time I click the scan button, it's going to hold all the scans for 60 seconds. You don't need to do this next part. I did it anyway. But the scan is actually basically a behavior or a bullet, so to speak, for your head armor piece. So what I did is, if you scroll down on the head in Equip Param Protector, you'll find this item called Weapon Param ID. So if I do right click, go to head, scan, we're back in Equip Param Weapon, but this time we're doing the head scan weapon. So they consider this a scan. And what I did is I changed the reload time from 4 seconds to 0.1. So now if I wanted to, for any reason, I could just mash the scan button. So I made all those changes, and so this should change those missiles to be kind of really good at homing, really quick, really fast, and I can target people from very, very far away. So let's check that out. All right, we're back in the game. Let's go ahead and turn on some enemies so we can test these missiles. So as you can see right now, I'm pretty close and I can lock onto them, but if I move further than 450 meters, then I lose that lock, right? I lose the ability to lock on. But if I do the scan, which I've boosted now to 3,000, you'll see it hits the whole map, and now I can lock onto all the enemies. And this lasts 60 seconds, so I don't need to scan again for a long time unless I move to a new area or whatnot. Or I can just mash it, because I changed the reload time to be super, super small, right? So you can see that scan is just popping over and over and over. But these missiles now, as you can see, they're faster and they track really, really well, so they're not going to miss at all. You could even boost the speed of these missiles to be a little faster if you wanted to. But yeah, it's pretty quick, and you can see how easy it was to change the behavior of these. So the last thing I want to do, one thing I did forget though, is I forgot to change the cost of each missile to be 0, so you can see my ammo is still going down. But we went over that in the previous, so you can walk through that. Anyway, the last thing I do want to walk through is how strong your armor pieces are, because as you can see, if I turn on enemy settings and turn the AI back on, I am still taking damage, right? And this damage will still cost some money at the end of a mission, so let me walk you through how that damage is changed in Smithbox. Okay, so back in Smithbox, I'm going to search for, in Equip Param Protector, I'm going to search for Melander, because that is what I equipped on everything, and you can see the different parts here. We have head, core, arms, and legs. So one easy way you can go about this, you can just increase your AP, right? So right now the AP is set to 1010. You can boost this up a little bit if you want to stay a little bit more vanilla, just make the game a little easier. You can change the energy consumption. And then you can also, like what I mentioned earlier, you could change the cost of the damage. Is it called cost? I don't remember what it was called. Oh, repair cost, repair. So the repair value right now is $4,500 if this gets damaged. If I just turn this off, it's not going to cost anything, right? If I turn this, or sorry, put it to 0, it's not going to cost anything at the end of a mission, no matter how much it gets damaged. But I will still take damage, right? So one way to change how much damage you take, if you scroll down, and this is the way that I do it, there may be a better way, but this is the way that I've been doing it. So if you go to absorption percentage down here, absorption percentage is how much damage is cut by your piece of armor. So different armor has different protection rates against different types of damage. You can see here it has a 2.3% damage absorption, right? So what you can do here is you can just change this to 100, and now this weapon will take 0 damage in that area. 0. It'll basically absorb every bit of damage that gets thrown at it. And you do this for all your weapon parts, and then you're essentially invincible, sorry. And then one other thing is the attitude stability. So this is when you get staggered and such. So if you get hit by an explosion and that bar, that yellow bar starts to go up, if you change this to some absurd number, like 1,000 or even 10,000, it's going to be really hard to stagger your mech. So if you do this to all your parts, you are essentially invincible. And I'll go ahead and make all those changes and jump back in the game so I can show it to you. Okay, so I've made all those changes. You can see all these are green, so it shows that I've changed something in those parts. Attitude stability is 10,000, and each absorption is 100. So you can see that in each one I made those changes. One thing to note here is these parts can sometimes be found on enemies. So if you set this to 100, there will be an enemy that you encounter that could possibly be invincible. So what I do is I set it to 90 for each body part. It makes you essentially invincible. Or you could change it to whatever number that you want, but since my build was so busted, I could deal with 90. You leave a little bit of damage on the table so that you can essentially kill those enemies that have those parts on them. Because if it's 100, you're not killing that enemy, and you could possibly fail that mission, right? So I'm changing this to 90, and I'm going to go ahead and save, and then jump back in the game. And this will give me a way to kill those really overpowered enemies at this point, but keep me still essentially invincible. You can see that I'm just pretty much just tanking this damage. I didn't change the attitude stability for every part, so you can see I'm still taking some attitude, but if you boost that up really, really high, then you're not going to take that stagger damage either. But you can see my AP is not going down at all here. And that's pretty much it. So guys, I hope you enjoyed that video. This is how I made this build so overpowered. And honestly, like, I've done so much in the game that I was pretty much done with customization, done with, you know, things to do. So this was a fun way for me to customize my mechs even further, be a little bit more overpowered, and just cut some of those last S ranks without being it being such a grind. It was actually kind of fun to, you know, see how crazy I was in the game. And like I said, this is something that you shouldn't do online. This is just something for yourself, but you can easily change this back and make the game how you want to play it. And you don't even have to tweak it this hard. You don't have to be crazy. You can just make it a little easier if you want, so you can just continue having fun with the game, or finding a little bit more customization for yourself. And one thing I just wanted to call out here is you can see I'm using some parts that you may have not seen before. This is from a mod called Armory, and I actually downloaded the Armory Lite variant of the mod because I didn't like all the variations. But Armory Lite can work just as well with this editing process. And what you do is when you select where your regulation bin is in Smithbox, you just have to select the mod folder instead of the normal game folder. And that way you can have a vanilla experience, and you can also have a modded experience that you can play with whenever you want. If you wanted to play online with the vanilla game, you can. Then if you wanted to just play with your crazy overpowered builds, you can do that too by just selecting the vanilla version of the game or the modded version of the game. So that's it. You don't have to like and subscribe because I don't know if I'm going to make another video. This is just a one-off because I was having fun with this and I wanted to show it off. So, yep. Cheers, guys. Have fun.